Today, we're diving into a story of two powerful opposing forces, set against one of the darkest backdrops in all of history. This is about Adolf Hitler's rise to power and the incredible stand taken by a pastor named Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Let's get into how their convictions put them on a collision course that was, well, pretty much inevitable. So our story kicks off not in some grand political hall, but in a small, almost picturesque mountain village. It's the middle of the night. You can imagine the air smelling like pine trees and maybe fresh bread, but underneath that peaceful surface, something truly terrifying is about to happen.
And that man? That's Adolf Hitler. He's actually there in person to oversee a brutal, bloody purge. Tonight, the men he once called allies, the leaders of his brown shirts, are going to be murdered in their sleep by his brand new personal army, the SS. This night would go down in history as the Night of the Long Knives. So how on earth did Germany get to a point like this?
To really get how a guy like Hitler could come to power, you first have to understand the state of the nation he was trying to lead. Germany, in the 1920s and early 30s, wasn't just struggling. It was a nation on its knees, in the middle of a deep, deep crisis.
See, after losing World War I, Germany got hit with the Treaty of Versailles. And this treaty was crushing. It forced the country to take all the blame for the war, pay these massive reparations they couldn't afford, and give up huge chunks of territory. You can imagine how that created this deep, simmering anger and national humiliation that just festered for years.
And then, as if that wasn't bad enough, the Great Depression hits the world. And in Germany, it was an absolute catastrophe. Businesses shuttered, banks went under, farms just stopped producing food. At its worst, almost half the entire workforce was unemployed. And the inflation, it was so insane that a single loaf of bread could cost you a wheelbarrow piled high with cash. The old way of doing things seemed completely broken, and people were absolutely desperate for a change, any change.
So into this total mess, this void of national desperation, two very different men step onto the stage. And each of them offers a completely different vision for how to pull Germany out of the ashes.
And wow, the contrast could not be more dramatic. On one side, you have Adolf Hitler. He's promising a return to national greatness, to pride, all fueled by raw power and this intense nationalist ideology. His tools? Propaganda and these massive hypnotic rallies. Then on the other side, you have Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a young pastor. He's calling for spiritual integrity, for obedience to a truth that's higher than any political leader. One path leads to total control, the other to principled resistance.
So let's look at Hitler's path first. He didn't just stumble into power. He followed a ruthless and, you have to admit, tragically brilliant strategy to grab absolute control.
His core idea was fascism. Think about it. It's a system that's completely against democracy. It loves the idea of violence and war, and it demands total, unquestioning obedience to the state and to one single powerful leader. For a nation that felt weak and was looking for a strong hand to guide it, this was a pretty potent message.
And he played his hand perfectly. First off, the guy could talk. He was an incredible public speaker who tapped right into the anger and fears of the people. He actually used the democratic system to win elections, and then he turned around and convinced a panicked parliament to just give him absolute power. With that power, he immediately banned all other political parties and set his secret police loose on anyone who opposed him. In a truly chilling twist, he used Germany's own democracy to completely destroy it from the inside out.
Which brings us right back to where we started, on that dark night in the mountains. The Night of the Long Knives wasn't just random chaos. No, it was a cold, calculated move to get rid of any potential rivals inside his own party. It cemented his power and sent a terrifying message to the rest of Germany. You are either with me 100% or you're dead. Okay, so now let's turn to that other path. Because while Hitler was building his empire of fear, Dietrich Bonhoeffer was wrestling with his faith in a way that would put him on a direct collision course with the entire Nazi regime. This one quote, wow, it really cuts to the heart of everything Bonhoeffer believed. For him, faith wasn't supposed to be comfortable or safe. He saw it as a total commitment, one that might, and maybe even should, ask you to make the ultimate sacrifice. He had this idea he called costly grace. See, a lot of churches in Germany were trying to find a way to make peace with the Nazis, mixing Christianity with nationalism. Bonhoeffer said, no way. He argued that real faith forces you to stand up against evil. It's not a comfortable path. It's an active, difficult, and, as it turned out, incredibly dangerous one. And this wasn't just talk for him, he really lived it out. He flat out refused to stay silent. He was one of the very first and loudest voices in the German church to call out the horrific anti-Semitism of the Nazis. He helped start something called the Confessing Church, which was a direct alternative to the state-run church. His message was simple and powerful. A Christian's final loyalty is to God, not to any political leader, not even the Führer.
So you see where this is going, right? A totalitarian state that demands absolute, unquestioning loyalty simply cannot exist alongside a man whose ultimate loyalty is to God. A collision wasn't just likely, it was absolutely guaranteed.
You can just watch it escalate on the timeline. 1933, Hitler takes power. The very next year, as Hitler is purging his rivals, Bonhoeffer is helping start the Confessing Church. Then, when Hitler throws all of Europe into war, Bonhoeffer makes a huge decision. He joins a secret resistance movement, a plot to overthrow the regime. That decision sealed his fate. He was arrested in 1943 and in 1945 executed just weeks before the war finally ended.
Hitler's monstrous regime, of course, would eventually crumble into dust and ruin. But the story that lasts, the legacy that endures, is Bonhoeffer's. A powerful testament to what courage and conviction look like in the face of absolute evil.
He really did pay the ultimate price for what he believed in. He was hanged at the Flossenburg concentration camp, a martyr for his faith and his defiant refusal to ever bow down to tyranny.
And in the end, his life is this incredible reminder that even in the deepest, most oppressive darkness, the choices and actions of a single person with real conviction can shine like a beacon of hope for all the generations that follow. Which kind of leaves us with this final question to think about. Bonhoeffer understood the cost of his convictions and he willingly paid it. And that challenges all of us, right here, right now, to think about our own lives. In a world that is always pushing us to compromise, what are we really willing to stand for? And what price are we willing to pay?